Okay. X and Y intercepts. If you think of a graph, the X-intercepts are coordinates where I want X and Y equals 0. The Y-intercept, you want Y and the X is 0. Okay? Basically, the X-intercept is where a graph crosses the X-axis. The Y-intercept is where a graph crosses the Y-axis. And when you cross those, if you think about this graph real quick, if you think of a graph, put a line, you have a point here and here. This is your X-axis and your Y-axis. That right there, this point right here, is the Y-intercept. This point right there is the X-intercept. Again, the X-intercept is where it crosses the X-axis. The Y-intercept is where it crosses the Y-axis. So, how do we find the X and Y-intercept? Well, if you look at this, for the X-intercept, we plug 0 for Y. So if I want my X-intercept, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plug 0 for Y and solve for X. So again, if I want to find my X-intercept, I plug 0 for Y. See how Y is 0? For your X-intercept, Y equals 0. So 2 times 0 is 0. That's gone. And then to solve, I divide both sides by -4. So X equals -6. What does that mean? That means my X-intercept's -6, meaning X is -6. What was Y equal? Y equals 0. That is my X-intercept. That is where the graph crosses the X-axis. It's at -6, 0. Now, if I want to find my Y-intercept, you're going to plug 0 in for Y. So if I want my Y-intercept, sorry, you're going to plug 0 in for X. See right here? If I want my Y-intercept, you see how X equals 0? See how X is 0, Y we're trying to find? So if I want my Y-intercept, I plug 0 in for X, and I solve this. Well, this becomes 0. Bam. And then to solve this, you divide both sides by 12. Y equals 2. So my Y-intercept is 0, 2. That's my Y-intercept. Y is 2. X is -6. X-intercept, Y-intercept. That's where the graph crosses the X-axis, right here. This is where it crosses the Y-axis. Now, instead of plugging in zeros, it's as easy as this. Watch carefully. I technically could have just, see how I plugged in 0 right here? Couldn't I just cover that up? My handy-dandy finger here? But plugging in 0, doesn't that really just disappear? So if I just cover that up, isn't that -6? For this one, didn't I just cover up the X? Isn't that Y equals 2? Isn't that a lot quicker to sit there and just cover up one piece, solve, cover up the other piece, solve? Because by plugging in 0, aren't I just evaporating it? Okay. So if we look at this one, if I want my X-intercept, if I want to find my X-intercept, where am I going to plug in 0? If I want X, where do I plug 0? For Y. So if I want my X-intercept, I want X, and I'm going to put 0 in for Y. That disappears, leaving you 3x equals -6. If you divide both sides by 3, you get x equals -2. So you got -2, 0. -2, 0 is right there. If I want my Y-intercept, you're going to take 3 and plug 0 in for X, and you're going to find y. So I plug 0 in the opposite piece. That leaves me with 2y equals negative 6. Divide both sides by negative 2. Y equals 3. Now, if y equals 3, which spot's y? Which one's y? The second one. So y is 3, x is 0. I want to put that coordinate on my graph. Well, that coordinate on my graph is right 0, 3. Could you make a graph between those two dots? Yeah. There's my graph. All I do is I find the x and y intercept, plot them, make a quick graph. The last one. If I want to find my x-intercept, I want x, so I'm going to plug 0 in for y. If I want my y-intercept, I want to plug in 0 for x. You have to be able to see the difference. The y-intercept, I want y. The x-intercept, I want x. I'm taking my equation, plugging 0 in the opposite piece. Now, if I solve these, I want to solve this for x. So the first thing is probably to add the 4 over. And in this one, doesn't that cancel? You get y equals, well, that's cool. I'm done there. This one, to get x by itself, you divide by 2. Okay, you got x equals 2, you got y equals negative 4. What's this coordinate? Well, x is 2. What's y? Wasn't y 0? And for this coordinate, if y is negative 4, wasn't x 0? Okay, 2, 0. Isn't that right here? 0, negative 4. Isn't 0, negative 4 right there? At 0, go down 4. Do you have a line? You should. There's your graph. So again, you need to find x and y intercepts. You then need to plot the x and y intercepts, and you make a quick little graph. It's quicker than making the table a lot of times. Because isn't 0 an easy number to plug in? That's always a beautiful number to plug in.